Hello students, today we are going to learn the poem 9 Gold Medals written by David J. Roth. This poem is based on a true incident. The poet describes the incident that took place in a Special Olympics of 1976 when 9 athletes lined up to start the race and one of them fell down right after it started. What happened next is the unique example of sporting spirit. Let us see the poem in detail. The first stanza is here. The athletes had come from so many countries to run for the gold and the silver and bronze. Many weeks and months in training, all building up to the games. The setting or the scene of the poem is that of Special Olympics. Have you ever heard of term Special Olympics? In these Olympics, differently abled athletes means physically challenged or athletes who have physical disabilities in some part of the body. So, in Special Olympics, differently abled athletes participate in various sporting events. In the poem, athletes have come from countries all over the world to participate in Special Olympics. They were there to compete for medals, for gold medal, for silver medal and for bronze medal. Many weeks and months in training, the contestant put in a lot of preparation and practice. Everyone hopes to win a medal and have gone through strenuous training for months. Strenuous training means a training which required a lot of physical and mental effort. The athletes participate in these events with high hopes of dreams of winning medals. The athletes, being specially abled, had to endure more trouble than the normal athletes. All round the field, spectators were gathered, cheering on all the young women and men. Then the final event of the day was approaching, the last race about to begin. In second stanza, the poet tells about a large audience was present at the ground to cheer the participants for different events. They cheered and enjoyed throughout the day. Now it was time for the final event of the day, the 100-meter race. People were eagerly waiting for the event to begin. The day was a little different to the audience as the participants were specially abled youngsters who overcome all the obstacles of life to participate in such a big event. These lines shows the enthusiasm of the spectators and that they were thrilled to experience such turn of events which might have been beyond their imagination. The loudspeakers called out the names of the runners. The 100 meters the race to be run, and 9 young athletes stood there determined and poised for the sound of the gun. The names of the runners who would take part in the 100-meter race were announced in the loudspeakers. There were 9 participants for the final race. All 9 participants were determined to win the competition. All of them took their positions behind the starting point. This was a palpable moment for the runners as well as the spectators. The meaning of palpable is easily noticeable. All were visibly tensed. They were all ready to start and were waiting for the sound of the gun. The signal was given. The pistol exploded. And so did the runners on hearing the sound. But the youngest among them stumbled and staggered, and he fell on his knees to the ground. The firing of the pistol marked the start of the race. The awaited race had finally begun. All the runners charged ahead along their respective tracks. But suddenly, there occurred an unexpected thing which brought the entire stadium to a standstill. Stadium is the place where the event was taking place. What happened in that stadium? The youngest of all the athletes stumbled and staggered. Stumbled and staggered means move on unsteadily and fell on his knees to the ground. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. His dreams and his efforts dashed in the dirt. But as sure as I am standing there telling the story. Now it's a strange one. But here is what occurred. The young contestant who fell to the ground came out with a cry of agony, pain, and frustration, for he knew that all his hopes had gone down the drains. Nothing could be more frustrating for a differently abled athlete after such tough training. The moment he fell, he knew all his dreams, hopes, and efforts were dusted. His pain and disappointment made him to give out a cry. The cry was telling how a person feels when his hopes are dashed, and he knows that his limitations might make him to have a second chance. But it did not end here. There occurred something really strange after the fall. The ones who had trained for so long to compete, one by one they turned around and came back to help him and lifted the lad to his feet. These lines speak of a very unnatural event that followed and that which won the hearts of all the people. In a peculiar turn of the event, all the 8 other runners of the event who were ahead of him stopped in their tracks. Though they had trained hard for so long to compete with one another and win medals, the fall of one athlete changed their minds. One by one, all of them now returned and helped the child who had fallen to stand up on his feet. The situation changed from a competitiveness to the feeling of a unity and compassion. The crowd was spellbound. It never imagined such behavior from the participants. This was a moment which was worth living. It moved them. It must have brought tears of joy in their eyes. This was one very precious moment in their lives, when something happened which was truly unimaginable and indescribable. Then all the 9 runners joined hands and continued. The 100-meter reduced to a walk, and the banner above that said Special Olympics could not have been nearer the mark. All the 9 athletes joined hands after the fallen one stood on his feet and walked to the finishing line together, hand in hand. The 100 meters race was reduced to a walk. None of the athletes were running anymore. They had taken the resolve to walk down the aisle all together in a mark of solidarity. The stealthy silence broke out into a standing ovation for all the champions, as they had not tried to win a competition, but they won the hearts of the people. In fact, they had created history and had presented the spectators of witnessing history with their own eyes. That's how the race ended, with 9 gold medals. They came to the finish line holding hands still. The race ended with 9 athletes holding their hands right to the finishing line. They won 9 gold medals, one for each. They all truly deserve the gold medals. The poet has tried to make the readers understand that it was not the 9 gold medals mattered. All the participants were the real hero and they were the gems. And the banner above the 9 smiling faces said more than these words ever will. So much more than these words ever will. The 9 sportsmen stood under the banner that declared it as a Special Olympics with a heartening smile. Those smiling faces touched the heart of everyone present there. It declared something special, a great feeling and a great lesson. This mere poem is not enough to express. It was beyond words. This poem gives the message that sports is not only about winning medals. They are also about learning the values of cooperation, sharing, competing, and complementing. In this poem, the poet has presented the idea of empathy and how human values are as important as the spirit of competition.